You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back for another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. We are now at the season 1 finale, episode 50. 50 episodes in 2021. And now we're at the finale of the first season of this podcast, which will also be the longest season of this podcast series because I don't know what I was thinking, a whole year. And I didn't ever make breaks, as I've been saying in previous episodes. I just kind of just kept going. I do plan for future seasons to be chopped up in, I think, halves of the year. So season 2 will next year be from January to like end of May. Maybe Memorial Day weekend we'll stop. Or maybe we'll stop at Juneteenth. Juneteenth will be like the finale. And then the end will be around this time, right after Christmas, for season 3. That's the plan. But it's interesting because I never thought I would get this far with this. You know, a lot of things, a lot of projects I do, I either get so, big at a point where I have to then deviate to new projects or something. But, doing a podcast is a lot easier than doing, TV shows and stuff. So, I had a show on Philadelphia Community Access Media called Ernestly Speaking, which is what helped inspire this show from my radio show I did in college. And, one of the things that was interesting about doing that was that it was just the reason why the show didn't continue past season 2. Even though we had 20 episodes, I believe. Yeah, we had about 20 episodes, which you can all watch on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, which I have a bunch of great content. You can look at me and see how I looked like 10, 7, 5 years ago, and also see how my views have changed. I don't know. Maybe you can go back and look at content then and see some changes. But I definitely looked a lot different. I was definitely a lot, my fashion, I always had a good style of fashion, but I guess you can just see how fashion evolved because there was a time where guys were wearing vests more in public, and now we don't really do vests anymore. Vests have died. What happened to vests? Do anyone wear vests? That's not like Mumford and Sons. Who's wearing vests? Guys who without a suit. Let me be clear, without a suit. Who's just wearing vests just on the cuff? So you'll see old episodes of that show, which was about 5 or 6 years ago, and you will see that I had a vest on it when I'm like, oh my God, I would never wear that now. But I don't know, maybe vests will make a comeback and I could pull out some of these great velvety vests that I had back at that time. But I don't think anyone's wearing vests anymore, sadly. At least guys aren't. Were women ever wearing vests? Like hardcore fashion, or was it a trend? Yeah. So you'll see that. My haircuts and my hairstyles in those earlier iterations I've always kind of kept, I went a little bit more curly. I don't do curls anymore. But I used to always go with the curly top. Now I just like a nice clean fade, get out the way. A little bit of waviness every blue moon, but I can't do the curls anymore. This is too much work. And I used to love a good hair gel and all that, but now. I mean, I know that's the trend. Everyone's growing their hair out for better or for worse. They're doing we're in that Killmonger era of styles, of Wakanda hair inspired styles, Kendrick styles of hair. I think it's fading, but it's not. But I've just been keeping the classic cool cut for a while. Well, of course, the signature part on my left side, that's just hasn't went anywhere. I feel like the part is almost like, it's funny for black men, because white guys, some of them who have long hair, they can naturally create a part by the lining of their hair. That's clearly not the case here. I have to create my own part, but it's become a signature look for me. And I don't think I've ever really been without one. I love it. But it's going through iterations, of course. And, but you'll see, in old episodes on YouTube. But that was I did about 20 episodes, 2 seasons of that show. And this is probably something I've done the most consistently as an independent project. Um, just, love doing it. It's easy because I can do it with a robe on. I can do it, as long as I hit my week, I always want to do it. I have enough time to carve out in my day to say, okay, I'm going to do it, this week, at this time, at least hit this ballpark. And there's so many hours in a day, and you can just set that time aside and make it happen. And so that's the plan, and that's been the plan. And you all have been listening and giving it life. And I was aggressive, right? Like I don't do that many features. I think I've only had two guests on this show, period. And then I had the live audience, but Jamarcus, and I had my special guest, the Kitchenista, which you all made one of the most listened to episodes in the podcast thus far. And I just felt like that was a necessary special guest, and it was hot tea. And that's when we was talking about Darius Crooks, and it was one of the memorable episodes because we found a way to do that without seeing each other in person, and it was cool. I don't know if I'll have more guests or things down the road. I think more people like to listen to me. Like I kind of think when the best way to describe it is that I think of Oprah, right? Oprah, has Oprah magazine, and Oprah's always on the front cover of her magazine. Sometimes she shares the front cover with someone, and sometimes she don't. But Oprah's always on the front cover, and she didn't say this, but I can imagine to myself, like when you are literally one of the biggest moguls and stars on the planet, people are going for you. People want to see you. And that's just, to me, dope. And she's inspired me in that way. Like in my podcast, I think people come to listen to Ernestly speaking. They don't want to see Ernestly speaking be with always 1,000 co-hosts and guests. I mean, that's not the kind of show format I do. And I also think Oprah has always had a great television show in the past where she was a talk show host, where she interviewed tons of guests and things. But I think that format is lazy for what I do because I have a talent, and I recognize it, that some people, cannot hold a show for an hour and a half, 2 hours. A lot of people can't do that. Like they need to have a co-host. They need to have someone to balance off the energy. I have a talent where I can hold down my fort. And when I study some of the great podcasts, for that, either they agree with me or don't agree with me, the best ones are involving individuals who can hold that show. But it's a talent, it's a skill, and you also have to have built an audience and a surrounding that can trust you in that way. Like I've convinced people to read me every week. Something I'm writing is getting published on some website or something. Like there's never a week, I would say in the past six years, where there has never been a week where there's never been an article or articles that came out that did not have my byline for the past 6 years. I don't know a 1 week in my entire career where there's not been an article that has come out. Now, let's be clear. Some people say, well, what, you've never taken any vacations? No, sometimes I've written pieces that were scheduled to come out the week of my vacation or the week that I took off or whatever. But there's not 1 week in the past 6 years where you could not find an article with my name on it, whether locally or nationally. That's just that's and there's been people who've been following that every week, read something. So there's almost a sense of people will listen to the podcast and they will say, okay, I can listen to him talk because I've been listening to his voice in my head, and they now read articles and they listen to the podcast and they say, oh, I can now read those articles in his voice. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, depending on who it is. But that's been awesome. I'm very fortunate and blessed and grateful that I've had amassed so far with this podcast, an ability to get people's time, not both in the written word, but in the audio, and maybe one day the visual consistently. Who knows? The year has been full of surprises, and this career has been nothing short than a beautiful planned surprise. So I just wanted to say that before getting into this is that, as I reflect on the final episode of 2021, the finale of season one, I just am always in awe and always happy that I get to do this show. This came about in the midst of the pandemic. We're still in the pandemic, but we're in a different place, right? I when I started this podcast, I was not yet vaccinated. The vaccines were starting to start. We was in the throes of what was going to begin to be an insurrection that took place. There was a lot going on. And also figuring out the flow of this podcast and trying to figure out how I want to do my shows and how I want to do my topics and my themes. And, I was figuring it out. And the more I've done it, the better I've gotten at it. And the better I've created a routine schedule and a flow and an adjustment. It's just gotten great. And after 50 episodes under my belt, I feel like I'm a pro. I feel like I can tell some people about how to do podcasts now. I always feel like I am never done with something, or I never feel good about something unless I can become an expert at it. I'm always a lifelong learner, but if I don't feel like I could be an expert at something or get to a place where I can somewhat excel in or master it in a way that I could tell someone else or teach someone else, then I haven't fulfilled the job or have not hit a level yet. Like, I feel like there's things I can teach people about journalism. There's still more I need to learn, but there's aspects of it that I can talk to people about and consult people about. And that's what I think those are my goals and aspirations with the career, for starters. So I'm celebrating 50 full-length episodes. Of course, there's been more episodes of Ernestly Speaking because we had the bonus editions, but 50, full-length productions. This is a great celebration. So as I drink this delicious, what is this? Grapefruit Spindrift sparkling water. So good. I give you all a cheers. So there's been so many life updates before I get into this Bombshell season 1 finale. Life updates. So the holidays was fabulous. I really enjoyed this holiday season. And, I initially was going to go down south with my family, but I just, as a married person, and I've said this before, I just want to have a nice holiday, with family and with, just being cute, small, quaint, Christmas with the boo. I feel like when I travel for the holidays with family, I'm always, not necessarily a bad thing, but I just always find myself preoccupied. Like, I have to cook, I have to do different things. And I just wanted to kind of just, like, I love, even though the pandemic, in the throes of the pandemic. So I guess the way we should say, I should describe the pandemic is pre-vax and post-vax pandemic. So pre-vax meaning before vaccinations took over, because that's a different pandemic. I feel like that was like 2020 was a different experience compared to 2021. I feel like, yes, there was death, right? There was, hurdles and setbacks and breakouts. Absolutely. But I would say that 2020 pandemic was scary as fuck because you had something that was spreading and everyone just had to be super, super vigilant. And there was no, there was just the race for the vaccine. And there was also a fear, right? Because it's like you didn't know, oh my goodness, you might get it. And then you don't know what's going to happen. Like, you don't know if what could happen because there was not enough research about COVID out at the time. There was still mixed signals. I remember at the very beginning, there was all these theories that, oh, wait till summer come because the heat will kill the virus. Remember that shit? I remember we weren't sure at that time about products. Like, oh, people were like sanitizing their groceries down. And it was just so much dumb shit around that. Which at the time didn't feel like it. So people would just wash their groceries and do all this surface cleaning. And then we found out actually surfaces, surfaces is not necessarily spreading COVID. Like touching a countertop isn't getting you COVID. Like COVID is airborne direct human contact. So fucking around, sharing drinks, coughing around people, not covering your nose, not washing your fucking hands. Like those were the things that was causing the problems, not surfaces and things. But we didn't know that at the very beginning. Or how, there was this idea of stupid remedies. Now, I wasn't doing those remedies, but there are some dumbasses that are still doing remedies like sticking their head in a pot where there's steam and shit. Like, okay. But just understand that getting vaccinated is the key, y'all. For real, for real. I mean, there's been some folks that I hear and they just, I don't know what it is about health and medicine. They got people doing dumb shit, but they'll say things like, oh, my immune system is this, and I took this, and I take this. And I'm like, that's fine, but you still gotta get vaxxed, people. Like you gotta get vaxxed. There's a guy in my barbershop that, tries to act like he's Teflon Don. He's always talking about 1,000 different herbals and tannins and toxins and all types of shit, heat tonics and stuff. I don't give a fuck. Get vaxxed, dude. Stop it. All that other, I don't know why people try to act. Listen, death is death. And you could go to the gym, have the fittest body. But you catch something that you can't shake off, all that goes in the garbage. Okay? Stop it. There's an obsession with people with genetic pools. I have this, and it's please. We're black, we're people, we're humans. We're shit is we've been dealt bad hands in healthcare. How many people get regular doctor checkups? How many people are actually recognizing holistic health? I think people that try to do the most extreme diets and detoxes and shit are the folks that actually don't understand how science and medicine work, because they're afraid to actually know what science and things work. So they choose to read up on half science or half-baked science off the internet. And they would rather believe that than come with the hard truth that maybe something could be wrong. And that it's better to get ahead of it than not get ahead of it. But urban medicine, man. Urban medicine. I am very much I'm 30 and I'm in a space where I do everything. I talk to health experts. It's really about finding professionals that you trust. Professionals that you trust. The goal is not that you get fucked over by a medical health physician and then turn around and say, oh, I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to go another one. I'm going to just ignore science because you had one bad experience. That's how a lot of these guys do. They have a breakup, right? They have a breakup with someone, and then all of a sudden they judge an entire gender or entire race of a gender based off of that breakup. So all of a sudden black women are just bad. They're horrible because one broke your heart. Ooh, sounds very fucking familiar. That's what people do. And it's messed up. And I just feel like that's what happens with health too, which is why it's important for doctors and journalists and others to really do. I just hate sometimes being in my profession and someone will tell me about some bad journalist who did what they would consider a hit piece on them, which a lot of times don't be a hit piece. They just be in their feelings. But they get mad about a story, and then they judge every journalist for it. And then they get mad because someone judged them in the story for something that they didn't do based on other experiences. Like politicians who say, oh, I have a hard time trusting journalists on their integrity. And I laugh and I say, ha, 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 you to talk. That's just, that's the irony of it all and the humor of it all. And I think to a certain extent, I just wish more people would recognize how gullible they are to a lot of the propaganda and misinformation devices that are being put out in society. I want that politician to understand that their hate for the media is by design, that is being sold to them by people who are also just as dirty and devious. I want people to understand that their misperceptions about health and pharmacy, that while it can come in many ways connected to history in the past, some of this stuff is being meddled with and reprojected out there in society to keep certain communities, I feel like, from doing what needs to be done to save their lives. We can't say there's a COVID disparity and not recognize that there's also there's a continuous hesitancy around the vaccination in certain parts of our country, in certain communities, and then also looking at who's projecting a lot of that hesitancy in mass media and what that agenda could be. Like, if you want to be a conspiracy theorist, why is no one entertaining a conspiracy theory that there could be some people who are invested in spreading misinformation about the vaccine to kill certain populations of society? Could be a thing, like someone thinking that, right? Or, why it, like, what's so funny to me, and I'll give this really great example. Why is it that Fox News is so obsessed with putting out information about the vaccine to create this hoax and this and all this, but in reality, they are the ones, many of their staff are vaccinated. And so I don't get it. Like, Sean Hannity's vaccinated. Tucker Carlson is clearly vaccinated. But he'll sit up and he'll entertain all these other sides and opinions. And it's funny because, like, Candace Owens continues to be someone who really wants people not to be down with the vaccines, but she is allegedly not vaccinated. But people think she might be because they've caught her at locations and venues that had a vaccination mandate, and she was there at those said locations, and people are like, how did you get in if you didn't have proof of vaccination? So either you're a fraud and a scammer, or you're lying about your vaccination status, and it's just a facade for various reasons. I mean, she's the same person who was talking shit to AOC about how she can't afford an apartment, how AOC can't afford an apartment in D.C., Congresswoman Alexia, But at the same time, Alexandria, sorry. But at the same time, the crazy thing is, she was suing her landlord after a situation where she wasn't paying 6 months rent. But she was trying to sue her landlord, and I'm talking about Candace, over a situation around her residency. Because they were saying she wasn't paying rent for 6 months and was about to get kicked out, and she was trying to argue about her tenants' rights and shit. Interesting. So I don't know. Candace Owens can't be trusted, and people need to stop giving her so much fucking weight. I hate that she trends all the time. At this point, I just find all the things funny, and so, part of me says I wish people stop talking about her, but I talk about her. So I guess in a larger sense, but I would say, let me clarify. It's not that people need to stop talking about Candace Owens. I mean, that would be desirable in a way, but stop taking her seriously. Like, understand her for what role she's playing in this, because she is a person clearly of importance, right? She is an interesting character to a certain extent. But I think what's important is that how we talk about her as journalists, as the public, I think is important. And like how we talk about her is important. It's because the idea of saying, oh, the woman should stop talking about her, she's not going to go away. She does hold a large audience of supporters, right? And even those who despise her. But it's how we talk about her and how we understand the complexities of what's going on within the white supremacists and bigots and folks that support her. If we are going to have a conversation about her, like we have to do about Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is the most powerful man in media right now. He is. Don't like him, but he is. He's the most powerful man in media right now. And you should take some time to figure out why. But he has the most watched show on cable news television. He has massive supporters. He has access to all of the major players that are shaping politics. And as other outlets grow, he has redefined the Fox News network. Like, when you think about how Fox News has become really far right, he has been the reason why. But also, you have to remember, very much early in my podcast this season, I talked about how Fox News was struggling at one point with the ratings, and how people really was wanting them to up the ante because those other outside, right-wing television stations were eating up some of the ratings that Fox News used to have in the bag. And also, when Trump no longer became president, people was like, okay, Fox News is back in the, B seat. But it hasn't, because Tucker recognized that he had to be the face, the television face for that type of segment of society, right? And when he took on that mantle full throttle, that got everybody back into Fox News' love. They're wrong as fuck. They're incorrect as fuck. They're being sued out the ass right now with tons of lawsuits. But what's keeping them still in the good graces of the ratings is because they was able to make that conversion. And he did that. Tucker did it. That is Tucker's credit. He fucking saved Fox News from really going down under in the ratings with the fact that he was able to cattle call and get everybody to his side. And then Fox got Tammy in there and Tammy Loren and all the other folks too. But Tucker led it. So there were people who was at Fox News that tried to have some level of stuff like Shepard and all these other guys. But those guys are out. Those guys are out. I think about it now, like, some of the folks that have come to Fox News, like Chris Wallace. Chris Wallace retired from Fox News. He was a respected journalist by many. He'd been in the business for a while. He always, seemed to play that, fair and balanced take for Fox News to give it some level of credibility. Like when people said everybody at Fox News suck, there was always people like, whoa, there's Chris Wallace now. Chris Wallace is pretty, and they kind of kept him up for a minute to be like the legitimate journalist there. But now he's left, and now there's rumors that he's going to go to CNN. Actually, to go to CNN on their CNN has a whole like separate non-cable platform that's going to be driven by digital and streaming, and he's supposed to go over there. They've been poaching talent to go over there. Now that's gone. The Fox News, it's now like, we say, whose Republican Party is it? Or is this Reagan's Republican Party? Reagan's Republican Party is dead now. This is now Trump's GOP. This is now Trump's Republican Party, right? This is now Tucker Carlson's Fox News. This is that they're in a different direction, confirmed. They're no longer the television station that Chris Wallace had tried to make a legitimate news source. They've now completely went to the dark side. So that's why, to me, I think Tucker Carlson is the most powerful man in media right now. And Mediaite and other outlets agree. You don't have to like the person, but you can't tell me anybody else. I mean, Walter Murdoch, sure. But no, seriously, when you think about who's running the show on TV, who is everyone talking about every week? Who is shifting the conversation, for better or for worse? It's Tucker Carlson. Hands down. I had to take a sip because I was just processing that. I love how I go into a stream of consciousness on this podcast because I went into all of that just to simply go back to my point. The holidays were nice. I had fun with my family. With my husband and my friends, close friends. I did for the first time ever a Feast of the Seven Fishes, which I didn't do myself because this is an Italian tradition. So I had to go to Italians. I had to go to my good friends, Kelly and Brian, who hosted it at their lovely house in Ardmore. And I went down there and it was great. It was a very fun dinner. There was so much seafood, and I love seafood, and pasta, and arugula, and wine, and lots of libations, and good time. To try to keep into that tradition, I brought my caramel sea salt Bordinos from Marsha Turney, who makes them at Little Nona's and Barbuza and all the great places. And so I brought some of that, but they already had dessert on lock. We had tons of desserts. Oh my goodness. I think it was cannolis and it was just great. So I was very happy. And my Christmas gift from them was this lovely letter that was written from Dr. Ayla Stanford. They had donated $200 on my behalf to the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium, which was such a sweet gift. And also, as you all know, my podcast, I was saying the other day, I didn't know what I wanted for Christmas, even though some of my friends found some interesting things for me for Christmas, which surprised me. But I pretty much wanted people just to give stuff to me, give stuff, to cause the things I care about. And so thank you all to so many of y'all who donate to, Black Doctors COVID Consortium, but also to PABJ, the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists. I got so many notifications that so many of you all donated to PABJ this holiday season, and of course, you all really helped us hit past the 200K mark, which is a big deal for our organization because we're independent. We're our own 501c3. We don't belong to any other groups. We are our own independent, nonprofit that advocates on behalf of the Black press and supporting Black journalists and diversity, inclusion in newsrooms across the region. So thank you all so much for supporting both of those organizations that I care about. And also, when I tell you all, I really like, I, yeah, unless you just have something really crazy to give me, like I'm moving next year, not out of Philly, so calm down. But I am moving next year and to a new place. And we have not opened all of those gifts that we received from our wedding, all of the household appliance, all that. We have not opened most of it because we plan to do it for like the home, like I guess a home warming party or something of that nature. I got to figure out what I want to do, but yeah, we're basically waiting. So I have new silverware. All I gotta do is buy some new furniture. I got all the plates. I got all this cooking utensils. I got everything to like throw a real party. So I'm thinking about some things I want to do for sure next year once I move. I'm planning on moving this summer. Like I'm looking at midsummer. Like to move in the summer. I have an idea where I'm gonna go, but I'll be staying in Philly for sure. I'm not moving to Center City, so let's just get that out the way. I will not be in Center City. Ugh. Not that there's people that live there that live nice, but I don't know. Every time I go to Center City now, it feels like a chore. I don't know. For folks who don't live in Center City, just take a moment and just got your feelings for 5 seconds. But for the rest of us who don't, those who live in north, southwest, northwest, south, and West Philly, Best Philly, of course, all the other surrounding areas, East Falls and all of them, Johns, I just feel like going to Center City feels like a tour. I sometimes slip up and call it Center City. Center City. Because it's just always so much going on. Even in Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse is not Central Park, okay? Like, I was down in Rittenhouse, and there's just so much. And I think that's the city, right? Because there's so much going on. We still have a opioid epidemic. We still have crime. We still have everything else going on in the city outside of the pandemic. And it's just so much going on. There was a guy who was outside of Barnes and Noble, and clearly there was signs of some level of mental distress. But he was just yelling at people, and it's interesting he was black, he was homophobic as fuck. But it's interesting because he wasn't targeting anyone else but like me and then my other friend who was also gay. But it's like, you're only fucking with us and we're not even talking to you. But I just find it interesting how those guys and people who listen to this podcast, DM me about this. But it's very interesting about who people select and how versus it. Like all these other white guys was walking down the street, wasn't fucking with them, but want to fuck with us. Come on, brother. Like it's just that kind of shit that pisses me off. Or I see it happen too, where the men will catcall certain women compared to others, and it's like, oh, but you have all these issues, but you know who to target though. Not to dismiss the health of others, but it's just like the selective targeting and madness is just. It's just a lot going. And then also there's aggression, like people trying to sell you shit when you go to Center City. And I guess people are saying, well, welcome to the city. Yes, welcome to the fucking city. You're right. But again, I don't think it was as intense when I first lived here back in 2010, when I just feel like maybe after 2016, stuff started to have a decay. Basically when Kenny became mayor. But all politics aside, you could just see trajectories. But it just seems like things are just so extra right now. And it should not be because it's a fucking pandemic and people should be backing the fuck up. Like people are not giving people space at the grocery store or anything. And I don't really order out from the grocery store as much. My husband do sometimes. He'll go and pick up a couple of things, but anytime I thought I would say, okay, I'm gonna go to Target and pick up this one little quick thing, that's when I'm like, wow, people still are not like backing the fuck up at grocery stores. Like, what the fuck? This is why, like I told y'all, the one habit that has not left me since the pre-vax pandemic was ordering online food, Amazon and things, and I tip and all that. But like, I just will not go to the store because I'm always every time I go to the store, it's always some bullshit. Plus, I don't have time for like the scan code to go off and then the security acting funny. Oh, that's like the worst experience, especially when you're black, because like especially when you're a young black guy. Worst thing ever is like if you go, like it sometimes happens like when I go, like if I go to Marshalls or TJ Maxx, but like the thing will go off and you just be like, fuck. And then you find out the lady at the front forgot to take the thing off. I'm just like, you could put my whole situation in jeopardy, lady. You can't be doing that. Like I said, there's moments. But I say all that to say that the holidays was great. Feast of the Seven Fishes was phenomenal. There was just so much love going around. There were just so many nice gifts. It was fabulous. So the next day was Christmas. And I want to start talking about Christmas itself before I get into the details with holiday heaux. So, Christmas was phenomenal. Okay. Everybody knew the assignment. Miss Dawn. Okay, details about Miss Dawn. Fabulous. Phenomenal. Glamorous. Best caterer ever. Like every time. She just nails it. And this year I did something very non-traditional. I didn't do a ham. I didn't do what else I didn't do? I did a ham. I didn't do dressing. This year, we just did something very seasonal but fun. So it was like we had a really delicious marinated salmon, and then we had roast beef, baked mac and cheese, those delicious string beans that she has, yams, and of course the Hawaiian rolls, and then tons of wine. All of those delicious holiday cocktails by Barry, bartender Barry. Okay, that gold digger. I keep calling it a gold digger because it's a golden drink. He knew what he was doing. Gold digger cocktail, and then his candy cane Cosmo. So it was a delight to have those back both times, and of course dessert was caramel sea salted caramel badinos from Marsha's Honey. So those were they're good, man. I can listen. That's the one thing I got hooked on. I don't have to have another sea salted caramel badino again. I've had my fair share, but they were good all the time. And actually, I digress. I'm going to get more and more and more. Love it, love it, love it. So good. So good. But anywho, it was fabulous. It was Sharon, my bestie. She hosted us. Her house is so nice. Her table was so beautiful. She pays attention to details. She always understands the assignment. And she knows how to host. I think before this year, I always assumed or thought common sense was common, and that when people host, that's just people know. I mean, Kelly is a phenomenal host, but you just know certain people that's just what they know. But it's just sometimes you can underestimate the power of hosting, and so this Christmas was phenomenal because both of the people who hosted us actually knew how to host. And I think a lot of people do not know how to host. I don't know. The thing about me is that I don't host too many people at my house because I don't have enough space, because I've kept the same apartment for 5 years. Yes, I know. You all looking at my wallet, looking at me and being like, child, you definitely how listen, how I was living in 2017 is not how I'm living now. That's why I'm moving next year. But when you try to make that upgrade to move, you have to really find a place that's gonna suit you and be spacious enough and things. It takes time. Plus, I want to be real with you. The pandemic also threw a monkey wrench in that, because you don't want to move during the pandemic. At least I didn't want to. I mean, some people they did. Okay, I just did not have my mental space. It was all about keeping. For me, it was about keeping space and maintaining a level of comfort zone. I got really attached to my apartment, really attached to certain spaces I carved out. And I didn't want to see anything change or move because too much was changing in my outside life that the one thing I felt like I could keep consistent was where I lived. So I didn't want to move during the pandemic. Pre-vax pandemic especially, and post-pandemic, pre-vaccine pandemic. I'm gonna get this right because I like this terminology. I'm gonna start telling people pre-vax pandemic, post-vax pandemic. It's two different times. But anyway, definitely not during pre-vax pandemic for sure, which was the year of 2020. You can say it like that. Just tell people 20. If people say, what is a pre-vax pandemic? 2020. And what is post? 2021 and down the road. But no, 2020, I was not doing that at all. It was just not a question. And in 2021, I began to start looking and searching, but it's still not 100% wanting to do that. And I didn't. So now we're into 2022. We're into about to be year 3 of this shit. And now I'm like, okay, it's time. I've hit my 5th year anniversary. I did my part, we had moved here right after Barry had graduated from Penn. So we kind of was like, okay, you're finished with school. We're here. Like, it makes sense. Because, again, I was 1 year in at doing work with Philly Mag. My career was beginning to take off around that year. But listen, nothing was certain. Like, the consistency of it all, you just never know. So you want to be in a place where, because remember, before then I was staying at a $450 a month studio apartment. And I had to be convinced to move out of that, but I had to because I was like, now we're living together. And so it's like, that was only room for one person. And a weekend visitor who just came by every weekend when he wasn't in class. But a 1-bedroom apartment it was. And now we're in a place where it's like, okay, it's time to expand. Definitely. And this is when I started learning the importance of square feet. Listen, I don't know this shit. But I was like, okay, that's square feet. So this is different from this. Like 500 square feet is trash. But 700 feet, 1,000, 2,500? Ooh, 2,500 square feet is... I never knew, but I started knowing the differences recently. So I'm in a better mental space about it. So I'm excited about moving eventually. But I think what's important is like, I say all that just to say that I didn't want to host because I didn't have the space in the way that I know. Like I know, like I can host Jamarcus. Jamarcus knows, come over, we're having a drink. But can I have 6 people? Can I do a table? No. The table I had was made for 2 people. Well, no, 4 people, 4 chairs. But ask me what one of those chairs are. Like, it was not mentally in that space. But my new place will definitely be host available. It'll be table ready. It'll be all of the things I need to be ready for the shade of it all. Because we're definitely going to have a feast. But like I said, some people don't know how to host. Some people want to host, but they don't know how to host. Like, they just don't think of those type of things, spatially, physically, dynamics. It's a lot of people just don't. And they'll try because they just want to be able to say they did something. But sometimes you got to take a step and be like, can I do this? Is this really good? Does this make sense? Am I trying to, force a situation to be that isn't? All of those factors are important in hosting. And over the years, Sharon has proven herself to be a master host. Kelly has become a great host. Since I've met her and everything, and recently I've gotten a chance to meet her, she knows how to host the feast. She knows how to have the table. She knows how to do that's a talent, that's an art. I know how to host things outside of my house. Like, I know how to host a gala. I know how to host a holiday party, birthday parties, a wedding. So I'm just thinking about all of that, today, especially today, after a weekend of it, like, damn, I really had a good hosted holiday, season. But, I say all that to say that Christmas was fabulous. The food was fabulous. The energy was there. And I got some cute gifts. So my mom got me a Versace wallet. It's become a thing now. This has been ongoing. It was the robe. It was a bracelet. Now it's the wallet. It's just a Versace thing. And actually, taking it further back, she was the one who introduced me to Versace Dylan Blue, the cologne, which I got 2 Christmases ago, and it's like my favorite like fragrance. So whenever you smell me, not now, you're like if you see me at a public event, you say, "Oh, you smell good." That's Yves Saint Laurent, which is what my stepdad got me for Christmas a year ago, and that cologne is phenomenal. But before then, in the summer, if you smell me in the summer, it's Versace de Blue. Like if you always have seen me for the past 2 years, that's all I was wearing because I was obsessed with that fragrance, and it's still the shit. It's still great. I still love that cologne, and I love my Yves Saint Laurent. That cologne is phenomenal as well. But I changed my colognes for seasons, so now like that's my Yves Saint Laurent is my like fall winter, my heavy winters cologne, and then the Versace Del Blue is going to be my spring summer scent. Judge your rat. I don't know. Just listen. That's what I like to do. That's my flavor. You know, don't take it personal. It's just true. So I got that for my mom. My homegirl Lauren got me some Tiffany and Company wine glasses, which was so nice. Um, Jamarcus, because he's just a total show off, he got me the Red album and vinyl of Red. Yes, Taylor Swift's Red album, Taylor's version. You know, I've been talking about this for a couple of podcast episodes. He got me that in vinyl. And let me be very clear. He's not a Taylor Swift fan whatsoever. Not at all. At all. And he doesn't understand my interest in her. But, you know, when your friend accepts you for who you are in all of your totality, you know, him accepting me, you know, I want to thank him for accepting me as a Swiftie. You know, this lifestyle is not easy because I'm always being judged for being a Swiftie, and for him to accept me for who I am, that's a good friend. And he's even encouraging this lifestyle by getting me this vinyl record. And then this is the first ever vinyl record I've ever owned personally. And it is of Red. And just when I thought he was done, he had a vinyl player for me as well. So I could play this, not when Barry's probably around, but when he's off at work and I'm at home, and I can play her and play this album, which is her best album, by the way, next to Folklore. And if you would like to get me a vinyl Folklore album, y'all, please send. Or Evermore too. I like that. Don't do the earlier stuff. We don't do Fearless and Self-Titled. But we start in my collection at Loud, and we go to 1989. But now I won't even ask for those vinyls, except because of the fact that those are still, until she does a Taylor's version of 1989, I can't. But I'll take Folklore, Evermore, and Lover, because that is after, you know, Scooter Braun did the bullshit he did. So anything post Scooter Braun, I can get, like this vinyl. So he was very thoughtful about that. Because I love the original Red album, but I can't listen to it anymore because I'm streaming all of Taylor's version, which sounds exactly the same. And she adds even more to it. Like she has a 10-minute version of All Too Well and all that stuff on it. And it's all on this delicious vinyl that I'm looking at as I speak to you all about it. That's why I'm so into it. Like I'm looking at all the little details. Like the fact that the ring that she has when she moves her hat, it says Red in diamond. I didn't even peep that until recently. But anyway, I saw all this to say that it's a great album. It's very pretty. And I haven't opened the vinyl record player yet to put it in, so I have to do that. But now I'm off to have the opportunity, because I don't have a CD player, and I've just been streaming on my phone. Like my phone has been my biggest. My phone has been like my biggest CD player. Sometimes I try to Bluetooth on like a little mini speaker, but I don't really have like the traditional CD player. All of that has went away. But this vinyl, this is about to be a moment. So I'll be playing. I'm going to get into that later on and sit down so I get to play it. He also got me an album, a photo album of black and white photos from the wedding, which was very nice. And I just was like, oh, it's such a sentimental gift. And I just have to just really relish it. It would just open up so many memories that were, now it's been, how many months I've been married? October to November to December. Damn, it's been 2 months already? Goodness. Mm, 2 months. Woo. It's go by fast, don't it? It do. So that's happening. But yeah, it was those were such nice, sentimental, thoughtful gifts. I got him this box set from Ginger Tea, which is a black-owned company in Philadelphia, which was a part of Ernest's favorite things. He's into candles and tea, and of course, I got him a Hand and Stone gift card to get that facial and that massage, get that back right, get that face right. You know, we don't play over here with our spas. Um, my bestie Sharon got me a brand new watch, which, cannot get enough of. Got a brand new watch, which I don't really wear watches that often because I can never find a really nice watch. But woo, this one I was like, I could wear this one. I could get jiggy with this watch. I rarely wear watches, but this one I could get jiggy with. So I really loved it, and it actually reminded me because I haven't worn watches in a minute, but that was a pretty one, so I'm going to be wearing that around. And she also got me this beautiful personalized locket. And inside the locket was a wedding photo of Barry and I, and it was personalized with our wedding date on it. Ah, such beautiful, thoughtful, heartfelt gifts. And so what I got her was this ginger tea box as well that came with all the goods. But she's also, okay, so this is the randomest thing ever. So she is obsessed with Campbell's Chunky tortilla soup. And she just loves that soup. I don't know why, but she specifically likes the chicken tortilla one. It's a specific type, and we all got our fetishes. Like we have a particular thing we like a certain kind of way. So like if you get me that raspberry royal Talentini sorbet, that's exactly what I want. And what if I said to you, "Oh, I can get you a raspberry sorbet somewhere else"? No, no, no. It has to be from Talentini. That's what I want. That's how this is for her. Like, there's a lot of other people that make tortilla soup brands. Progresso makes one. Other soup companies make one. She wants the chunky from Campbell's. She wants that version, and she wants that. So I got her like 20 cans of that. And I got her some bags of these really high quality, like lime like flavored tortilla chips, and I got her some avocados. So basically, I got her a super, super, super deluxe, over ambitious, over the top tortilla soup kit for herself. Now these were individual cans, but she has other trimmings. So when she's at home and she wants to be cozy and she wants that candle on and she wants to have some tea and all the other things in the kit in the box, she can also have this delicious tortilla soup and know that it came from yours truly, because I literally bought all of the tortilla out of all the stores around Philly. So when I was saying earlier I was going to Target, that's why I was in Target with a bunch of cans, because I couldn't find it at any CVS's and I couldn't find it in any other location. I like literally bought up all of the tortilla cans I could find of that soup so she can have a good Christmas. So if you can't find them, they're at the Acme on 40th and Walnut. But if you can't find any other ones anywhere else, if you can't find it, you know where to find it. Just putting that out there. I'm sorry, y'all. I was that dude. Yes, I was. Kind of like reminded me when I was looking for the strawberry cheesecake Ben and Jerry's ice cream, and I couldn't find any in West Philly because I found out a dumbass had saw a sale that was 2 for $5. They saw that same sale and they bought all of them around West Philly. I could even get it at the CVS on 48th and Market. I won't even go into that, but I heard some interesting tea about a particular CVS pharmacy that is being very, 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 very naughty with giving people booster shots. Apparently, they're just not that good. I think the place it's in Wynwood or whatever it is, but it's a CVS around here that apparently is the pharmacy is very messy, very, very dirty. They don't keep it up, and the people there are they're taking forever to get booster shots, and everyone's saying it's like the worst CVS. First of all, they're closing. I told you they're closing all the CVS's down. They closed one of the ones I used to like going to in Center City at that Del Frisco's over there on 15th and Chestnut. That one's closed for good. So now I have to take my ass all the way to 17th and Chester. See, this is why I don't like Center City. Because this is the shit that happens in Center City. It is this kind of shit. Where are the CVS's? Why are they scarce? Well, CVS is doing massive closing across the country, but I'm just like, Philadelphia needs all the CVS's. We need all the pharmacies. We should have these resources. Why are we always being left out the conversation? Put Philadelphia back at play. CVS's in Philadelphia. Like, Jim, what are you doing? Just fucking around. I mean, I get it. It's listen, I have been a lifelong CVS card holder. Okay. I just hate that it's going to be harder. There are other CVS's you could have closed. Like, you could have closed the one on 17th and Chestnut because they don't have shit there. The 15th one always had weird, cool things that I couldn't find at other CVS's. Like the one on Spruce that's at 15th and Spruce, that's a good CVS. Very pretty, very clean. They keep their stuff up. They always have things in stock that the other ones don't have. That's a really good CVS. You all closed the wrong CVS. I just want to say that. The one on 15th and Chestnut wasn't bothering anybody. Okay, just wanted to get that off my chest. So, yeah, Christmas gifts were very nice. Everyone was very thoughtful this year. It was just a very nice Christmas, very peaceful, after a year of so much mayhem. So let me get into this holiday host thing before we get into the year in review. Or just the best stuff, worst stuff list, because you are messy. And this is a very messy story. So during Christmas, I saw some interesting things on my timeline. I did not realize how many men I knew. And when I mean no, they're not like besties or homies, clearly, but like acquaintances and things. How many of these men had children? Some of the men I saw on my time, I was like, oh wow, you have a child? You have a child? Oh, he has a son? I didn't know he had a son. And it made me think about, growing up and how a lot of these fathers will pop around the holidays to see their kids or see their children. I'm talking about deadbeat dads. But Christmas time, these deadbeat dads are popping up, but they've gotten a new device. They got social media. See, when I was younger, social media hadn't taken off then. But now there's like this culture of men who really don't take care of their kids. Like, and let's be clear about taking care of children. Taking care of children in the sense of being consistently active in a child's life, not treating it like, going to the doctor for a checkup once a year, or being like Santa and showing up to the house once a year. But being like active, like consistently making sure, that, it's back to school. My kids gotta have stuff for school supplies. They, birthdays and not just the pinpoints, but just consistently checking in and making sure that kid gets whatever they need and being very active and visible, not just with money. Cause it's like you're paying off a debt like student loans. Like nobody wants to see their student loans or their student loan provider or any of those people that's involved in the process. They don't want to see them. They like, look, get this money, get the fuck out of here. People are out here treating their children like student loans. They pay off the debt and they keep it moving. They don't really want to have much communication on the phone. They don't want to have any in-person visitations. They just want to just pay off whatever they think that debt is up until a certain point. For some people with kids, it's to the age of 18. That's so fucking ridiculous. That's so horrible. And that's a culture of some people that are like literally, giving money, but having nothing to do with their child. Or Christmas time comes, and because everybody has some type of dog or something on their lap, that's when they want to put their child on their lap. And they take pictures with their child. And then facade on social media, like they're just this great family person because they come up in there with $2,000 in gifts or dumb shit the kid don't need. But they already got the gram so they can take videos of the kid playing with the car or playing with the toy or doing whatever. And then looking at it and being like, ha. Like, that's some fuck shit. But I've seen some stories and heard some stories this Christmas, holiday hotels, that had me shook that people are doing this. Not too surprised because, when I was growing up, I knew people in my school, people's fathers and parents like that in my school that did things like that. And it's just sad. But it wasn't on social media like that. There was no Instagram at that time. So now you see people really doing the fucking most one time of the year. It's horrible. But to add insult to injury, One of the other things that's been interesting has been the facade of folks being, being separate or married, or men, telling women that they were dating, oh, they can't be with each other during the holidays because the holiday photos show a married man with his family doing holiday photo shoots. But then on the back end, these men have whole other lives. Now, a couple of women saw my Instagram timeline story I was doing, telling some of these experiences. And one woman was very passionate about it, opinion about it. She said, look, those women know, don't feel sorry for those smuts. Those were her quotes. That's not what I said. That's her quotes. And I took a step back to say, to a certain extent, damn, do they know? It's like, yeah, they know. And they like to whine on here. And I was feeling bad for them. I was like, oh, well, that these men are misleading these women. Sometimes they are, but sometimes they're not. And I've learned, and I'm working on it as a feminist. But in learning this, what I'm about to say means that I have to understand that women too lie, which women do lie. Not always, clearly, but some women lie. Shit, I know some women that lie. What I'll say is that the logic I've learned in feminism is that, especially as a male feminist, is that you can care about women's rights and their experiences, but not so much that you begin to infantilize them. And I think about that within the movement for Black lives. Like in advocating for Black Lives Matter and for that type of understanding, you have to come to a point where you have to realize that stripping people of their humanity and their agency in situations, or emphasizing them or babying them, does reinforce sexism, reinforces elements of white supremacy, without realizing that, intention or not, the same dynamics can be at play, but for the wrong reasons. And so what this happened to me with Beyonce and Jay-Z. I was such in love with Beyonce that when she was actually fucking wrong about things, I always tried to find fault in the men or the man in this. And someone told me a really good point, was like, oh, to try to act like Beyonce doesn't have that much agency in these situations does her no good. And that was true. She decided to marry a capitalist, a gross capitalist. Let me clarify, because we're mostly all capitalists in our way. But a gross capitalist who she continues to defend and live the same type of philosophies with him. And so she's a part of the problem in that conversation. It's not Jay-Z's fault. That's her. She's choosing to stay with him. She's choosing to be with him. I think about the same thing with like Nicki Minaj. I remember we were all saying, not all of us, but many of us who did not want to believe that Nicki was fucking up. But Nicki was. Nicki was deciding to keep this relationship going. And it was sad because she's made a choice, more on that in a minute, but she made a choice. And, she's got to be accountable. So I think what's important in these situations was that, as much as I was ready to blame those men, right, because it is their marriage, and yeah, they are wrong too, but, that woman holds some responsibility as well. Like, and Monica, like, look, when I think about impeachment, and Monica Lewinsky acknowledges that she had no business messing with a married man, especially that was the second married man she messed with. The first one, that I think was highly problematic because she was underage. But in this situation, she was underage. I think that clearly that man was more manipulative, and also the range to which he was a teacher and she was a student, that was inappropriate. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, Monica Lewinsky had an affair with another married man before Bill Clinton, and that came out in the public at the time. But she acknowledges her role she played, and I think there is still a role. And she acknowledges it. So there just has to be that. You just can't get caught up in protecting people to a level to which you can't acknowledge some independent role that they may have played in it somewhat. And so when I was hearing this woman who's in my DM telling me about, don't feel bad about those, well, she said smuts, but I think that's slut shaming, right? But those individual women who decide to mess with married men that get their heart broken or get sad on Christmas when they find out, or when they have to see those pictures, they knew. They knew. It's a choice. So both of them are wrong in the same picture. But I'm always, for some reason, annoyed with these guys because I'm just like, if you don't want to be married, like, get the fuck out. Free yourself and stop hurting other people. It's just the worst. So that's one thought. But I also want to say in general, in following up in that part of the conversation, can situationships die in 2022? Like, can we stop with situationships? As someone, I haven't been in a situationship in like 10 years. 10 years. I haven't been in a situationship in like 10 and a half years. Or 9.5 years. Because it'd be like I think 2012 was when I stopped. I was right before I think it was, yeah, I was about to, I was like, right, I think I had just turned 21. I was in a situationship. Yes, I was. And got over that. And then took some time to myself. And that's how I let me to Barry eventually. But before that, I was in a situationship. And let me just say this. Everybody act like they can hang and handle. You cannot. You're a human. You have feelings. It's time for people to acknowledge that most of us are not sociopaths or cold-blooded, no feeling, no fucks giving people. We all have feelings. We all catch feelings. We all get in our scenarios. And I think what people have to understand is you have to stop with this logic of trying to suppress feelings for the sake of having one's comfort. There's a fear of being lonely with people. And I've realized this year during the pandemic how much people will compromise their wants and their desires in order not to be lonely. That they will never, like, they'll stay in situations that they know are toxic, that they know are not helpful for the sake of not being lonely. So that somebody can look like they give a fuck about them. That so somebody can text them. That somebody can, keep them preoccupied. And so they will literally settle. They will literally settle and compromise. And the thing is, they're saying to themselves, well, there's no strings attached. We're not in a relationship. So, I know what it is or whatever. But you really don't. Because feelings and emotions are still there. How much can your heart take of hits? How many moments can you take hits at your self-esteem, your expectations, your confidence? You're breaking yourself in the name of being in a space that is supposed to give you some level of pleasure and enjoyment. And so you would rather go on this ride than just be by yourself because that won't seduce. So you'll compromise and take these hits. That is so not healthy. And the crazy part is that when you finally, quote, unquote, get out of it, that becomes another person's motherfucking problem. The next person you date or the next situation. And so you have to really get out of those. Situations were stupid. And when you get a certain age, like when you get your late 20s, early 30s, you start getting your 40s, that shit is old. It's for the birds. Like it's complicated. That shit is not cute. It's not fucking cute. It's cute. It's like cute when you're in high school and you're in college, where like you don't know where you're gonna land, where things are gonna be when you're done. But when you get grown and you got your own place, you're paying your own bills, and you out of the nest, anything that isn't just single or relationship, all that blurry shit is a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for disaster. I'm judging it. I'm judging you. Everybody watching this stupid show, Insecure. Well, let me stop. Let me clarify. The finale of Insecure has happened. Thank God. It's here. It's coming. It's there. The show's over now. My personal bias. But like, some of that, like, oh, she's going to pick Nathan. She's going to pick Lawrence, blah, 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 blah. All of that. I just want to say I'm from Houston. That's where my bias lies with who I prefer. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. But there goes, that's my bias in it. But bias aside, out of all that situation, the entire situation, all of those things, it's just like you get to a point where just like, does that not, like, why do you want to create chaos for yourself to keep you preoccupied? Like creating chaos. Like as a journalist, chaos falls on my desk. So I don't need to create any drama. I don't need to create anything that isn't going to be self-evident within itself, because I don't need any more. Like I always tell people, I have enough real drama in my life that I don't need any unnecessary drama. Unnecessary drama. That's the key. I don't need any unnecessary drama. There's a lot of people who cannot say the same. They have to create scenarios and dynamics to which something happens so they can see what happens. Why would you want that? like why do you need for things to happen to reveal itself, or you want to test people? I feel like when you have to test people, that's when you don't it's true that you don't trust them. I don't have to test anybody. If I feel like I have to test you, then I need to fuck with you, or I need to be with you in any way that is intimate and personal and close to me. But people do this. People test partners and test friends and do all of that shit. I trust me, I've been there. I'm talking from experience. I'm able to criticize these things because these things have been things in my life. And I had to realize, how does this stop today? How does this stop right now? How does this stop X, Y, and Z? I have to really look at the current relationships I have and dynamics and things that are happening. And I have to say, am I in positions that people have me out of my character? Am I in positions where I have to, that I just can't say no? If I have to say, if I have to think or have to plot or scheme when it comes to things in my personal life, professional is different. You got to be strategic. There's a different way to navigate professional. I'm talking personal. If I have to do all of that in my personal life, I'm not doing it. I would rather cut that person off. I would rather just move forward on a different type time. But I just can't. And I see too many people in my life, women and men, that are oftentimes playing stupid games and winning silly prizes and going into these situationships and playing these games. And then and then get in a situation where they have to text and call and cry and me. Like all of these things. Just stop. Enough of it. Masturbate. Get real good with yourself. Figure it out. You're a whole lot better if you do that than trying to be in some type of entanglement with somebody that, So that's that. It's simple. In situationships. Now let's get on with the year in review. The year in review. It's been a year. I think that, I started this season in the midst of the insurrection happening, and then the Biden presidency coming, right? And that Biden presidency has just been so far, it's always he gives us a little and he taketh away, and he gives us a little and he taketh away, and then he gives us a little. So right now with the student loan crisis, I see what's going on with a lot of people with student debt. And what's been interesting about that is that, people were really worried that January they were going to have to start paying back their student loans. So they were gearing up for that in the midst of the pandemic. But Biden has once again, giveth, and we don't know when he's going to take it, but he's given it till May. So he's extended it to May. So that gave people a lot of Christmas relief and joy. A lot of people are excited. They're like, yes. They got the whole winter, and a good chunk of the early summer to avoid, paying off their loans. And, who knows what happens next? Maybe Biden might keep extending it. I mean, he could extend it all the way to the midterm, to keep everybody happy. But the conversation, the answer hasn't been solved. And I think that's kind of what Biden has done, is that he's always, achieving something. Like the infrastructure bill was a major fucking deal. The infrastructure bill is a big deal, and it got done, and he did that. And that's a great accomplishment. His Build Back Better could be his Obamacare. And that is being held up by Joe Manchin. So it's hard. There's so many good people, bad people in between. So I want to give y'all my list of my year in review of everything and everybody that you all asked It's not fan generated. It's Ernest, the critic's choice. So, my person of the year, and then my worst person of the year. I'm gonna do it's gonna some of it's gonna be local, some of it's gonna be national. So let's have fun. So my person of the year, and this is national. My person of the year is Leticia James. That is my person of the year. You all have been following me through this entire pandemic, this entire year, and I think Leticia James is the person of the year for me. Reason why she is because she is right now the AG in New York State. She's been pushing through on Trump. She is Trump's biggest nightmare. Trump is scared of her. I think Trump is really scared of her right now. But in spite of everything, she pursues and persists. She will not stop until she gets what she wants. And what's interesting about her, and I think this is very important, okay, is that she she was supposed to run for governor. She was planning to run for governor. And she didn't because she is so, yeah, and I was ready for her to run for governor. Like, I was like, yes, Leticia for governor. But she's so invested in getting in Trump's ass that she's like, if I run, I have to separate myself from this case. I can't do it, yada, yada, yada. So she kept her gears on. Trump is trying to sue her right now to intimidate her from getting into his ass. But 2022 might be the year where something might come. There's some breakthroughs in this investigation. The Manhattan AG's, district attorneys looking into it. It's getting interesting over there. And she's been consistent. And she's a black woman who clearly sees a governorship in her future. I thought it was going to be sooner, but this is perfect for her now. And I feel like she really has been consistently killing them. I mean, she's come after Facebook. She's come after the NRA. She's come after a lot of major entities, institutions. And so this just makes so much sense. And so I'm impressed with her. I think she's been consistent. And also think her decision not to run for governor is just another sign that she's a woman of integrity, or a woman that recognizes and reads the room and recognizes, hey, this ain't about me, So I just, she's my person of the year. My runner-up for person of the year is Dr. Fauci. I know. People would say he should have got it in 2020, or he would have been a 2020 answer. I say this year because of the fact that he went from being a guy that was being hated on and disrespected to someone who, even in the new year, has consistently kept that same energy. He's in a better place, but he's weathered out the pandemic with everybody. He's keeping that voice. He's keeping that spirit. I'm here for it. And he's been right. He's been keeping it right. He's been pushing vaccinations. He's been killing it. So he is definitely my person of the year. Runner-up. So my person of the year in Philadelphia is Dr. Ayla Stanford, of course, right? She, again, like Dr. Fauci, kept it consistent. But also one of the things that she did that I think was a bold act of humility that Leticia James did that I think was an act of humility is that people really wanted her to have the Philadelphia Health Commissioner position. I was one of those people. I was like, oh my God, you got to take this position. You got to do this, right? And she did it. She didn't take it because she wanted to push the Dr. Ayla Stanford Health Center for Equity. And that is becoming a place in a hub that's going to probably make more impact and do more than anything she would have did in that health commissioner seat, right? If she would have did the health commissioner seat, it would only been for a small period of time because it was under the Kennedy administration. She would have to work with the Kennedy administration, which is shitty right now. And then also she would have to deal with all of the other personalities and things like that. So I don't think she, she did it. She did a good job. I think she was great. And I really think she showed that act of humility that I felt like represents the core of Philadelphia's spirit and grit, but also somebody who just really was like, I'm going to do something that's bigger than myself. And she's been consistent and she's been national. She's been everywhere. So Dr. Ayla Stanford is my Philadelphia person here. My runner up, and I had to take a lot of time about this runner up, who could be the runner up, because there were so many other people, I guess, who did good things in Philadelphia. But I think the most consistent person that fits this in the political sphere is Rebecca Reinhardt, the city controller. Definitely my person of the year runner up, because she hit the ground swinging and has not stopped swinging. At the beginning of this year, she got back with the report on what happened with the police commissioner in the city and the tear gassing, just complete fuck ups across the board. She came in head on, swinging, doing her thing. And she already had the position, but she got reelected. And even though she did not really have any challengers, she pushed for other progressive candidates and other good people, and never stopped being in the conversation. Even when there were other reports coming or there was nothing going on, she was always in the conversation. And people think she's going to be a likely candidate for mayor. And I think she definitely is a better option than some on the list. But voters will have to figure out 2023 if she runs and if it's going to happen and what else is going to happen. But I just think across the board, she's been doing a lot of thorough work at that office. She's kept it really independent from the mayor's office, in a way that doesn't seem like she's trying to antagonize, but she's really actually trying to inform the public what's going on. And she's also surprised. She just continues to surprise people because she came from, the Nutter administration, the King administration, that people thought, oh, this white woman, this white liberal woman, she's not going to, speak truth to power. But she's very clear and precise in discussing racial inequities in a way that doesn't feel as performative as other white women that's out here in politics and non-white women out here in politics, like Hillary Kim. But like other people who are trying to, embody those ideals. She seems to be very self-aware of who she is, what she can do, what she can't do, and she seems to be doing it pretty honest. So yeah, Rebecca Reinhardt is my person of the year runner-up Philadelphia. So let's get into the worsts. So my national person for worst person of the year, it's hard. But this decision, I think, just works because of the disappointment, right? It's not Trump, because Trump is a has-been at this point. He's trash. Not Tucker Carlson. It's Joe Manchin. Worst person of the year, national. Worst person of the year, 100%. Here's a guy who, quite frankly, I would have a lot of respect for him if he just went ahead and said, I'm a Republican, I'm running as a Republican, and that's what I'm going to do. Okay? Just run as a Republican, dog. He's literally taken the Democratic Party hostage, holding them to these very sucky, moderate ideals and scaring the living fuck out of everybody up into the midterms. He is the worst person of the year, hands down. Because at the end of the day, worst person of the year to me is a person that you didn't expect much from, or you expected something from, but then they did a complete 180. It's got to be a chip to that when it comes to national. Like Donald Trump's easy bait. He's a horrible person. But Donald Trump ain't any different from this year to last year or even to the 1980s. He's been who he's been. Joe Manchin, fuck him. Worst person of the year, national. The runner-up. And this is just, there are so many good people that could be runner-up, but I have to give it to the Cuomo brothers. Runner-up. Worst people of the year, 2021. Runner-up. The Cuomo brothers. Okay? Because Andrew, right, we was like, whoa, wait. And how he dragged that shit on until he had to resign. You knew what you did. You was fucked up. And then you tried to turn around. And listen, it's not even just the Me Too on him. You see, you got to be a really, really bad person, right? It was the Me Too situation. It was the nursing home situation with COVID. It's the backpedal, and it's the bringing the brother in. Chris Cuomo threw his career down the drain behind the same type of shit that his brother was doing. He had sexual harassment allegations, lawsuit pending, right? That's one. But also getting involved in cahoots with your brother, to silence victims, these were creeps and we didn't even know it. We went from loving them in 2020 to hating them in 2021. What a 180. It's one of those live long enough to see your heroes become villains. I mean, that's really what these two became. And it's so wild to me. Like, literally, they were on 2020. Okay. They were on CNN in 2020 together making jokes on CNN. In 2021, both of them are like off TV, out of their seats, out of the office. Life hits you fast. Fuck them. Worst person or persons of the year runner-up 2021 of the year. So those are my tiers. So, of course, y'all messy motherfuckers want to know about Philadelphia. Okay. Who is the worst person in Philadelphia of the year? I have to take a time, y'all. Because it's... Okay, let me just say this. Kenny is in the Hall of Fame of worst people in Philadelphia, so I can't give it to him. He's in the Hall of Fame. Like, he's in the Hall of Fame. So it's not Kenny. I would say Danielle Outlaw, but she was the worst person in Philadelphia to me last year in 2020, and she hasn't done anything in 2021 that isn't any different from then, so she's consistently has been a fuck up. So this one is interesting, but I'm going to have to say this, and I know people are going to be in their feelings, but I think that this is the best answer. The Philadelphia Democratic establishment. They are the 2021 worst people of the year, Philadelphia, period. The Philadelphia Democratic establishment is the worst. The absolute fucking worst. They are horrible. They are the reason why everything has been shitty in this town. Bob Brady leading the party in the city committee is just terrible. The moderates are fighting with the liberals, even though they all are in bed with each other in some worse way, shape, or form. We don't have any clear path to victory in 2022 on any fucking thing. You got progressives on one side, posing like they're progressive with the Working Families Party, but they're actually low-key grifters that might lose both of their seats in 2022. The one that they never had a chance of getting and the one that they barely got through nepotism. Like, there's too much going on. And so I have to say the Philadelphia Democratic establishment. The establishment, okay, and all of its friends in between, horrible. This mapping is a shit show. They just suck in Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Democrats, the establishment, the institution, it just sucks. They're the worst people of the year, hands down. Runner-up, which means it cannot be a politician. I would love it to be Sheriff Rochelle Blau, but she's a part of the Democratic machine establishment. So who can it be? That's the worst. Who's the worst? Who's the worst? Any guesses, y'all? Talk to y'all, the audience. I'm waiting. I know y'all. So it's Dr. Thomas Farley. The Philadelphia Health Commissioner is my runner-up for worst person in Philadelphia 2021. It is Philadelphia Health Commissioner Dr. Thomas Farley, the old one. He's been replaced. He had to resign. He was fired. Talk about somebody who dropped the fucking ball in 2021. In 2020, he was like the man, right? He was the guy we watched on TV every week talking about the vaccinations. But he just made so many bad errors. And under his leadership, we had Philly fighting COVID, which are like honorable mention worst people ever. But he just dropped the ball. And when we found out about the Move Remains, which that was a complicated shuffle, he had to step down for that. That led to him stepping down. Move Remains were all over the place. He couldn't even speak to that. Then you had the situation with, that. They had the situation with all the shit that was going on with, who was that? Oh my goodness. Just the Philly Fighting COVID group and that brat from Drexel who was out here, when the vaccines needed to be distributed, and they didn't even give Dr. Ayla Stanford's group money like that to do her thing. And we saw in real time those racial disparities. And he worked under the Kennedy administration. He's done. I think people would have said, hey, other runner-ups, honorable mention could have been, Bobby Heenan, Democratic establishment. Oh, what about, Johnny Doc? Another one, part of the establishment. Those guys suck. We know that already. But I just felt like Dr. Thomas Farley really disappointed me. So the Democratic establishment as a whole in Philadelphia, worst people of the year. And Dr. Thomas Farley, worst person of the year, runner-up, 2021. All right, those are the big ones. So let's talk about fun stuff like entertainment. Who's the best and the worst? So my entertainer of the year is Lil Nas X. I just think this was his year. I think that he did something incredible with his art that was unexpected. He's the comeback kid, even though he was never really down, but the return to form. And he just had a really great year. He made the best out of a pandemic. I almost felt like watching his performances, those live performances, those music videos. He gave us quality art and talent. He's got tons of Grammy nominations this year, yet again. He had multiple number one hits. He had a great selling album. I just think he is the entertainer of the year for me. Runner up, it's weird. I have bias. I'll say Olivia Rodrigo. A lot of people are making her entertainer of the year this year, but she ain't entertainer of the year to me. Runner up, though, I think is fair. I think she is definitely the runner up. She definitely had a breakthrough year this year as a newcomer. I mean, she really shed off the Disney Channel look in a way that was not as super sexy and risque as the other artists before had to do, but she did her thing. So I really, really admire her and think that she's going to do well. I'm a little worried. I think her album is going to win album of the year. I'm a little worried, y'all, because I have a different album of the year thoughts. So what are those thoughts, Ernest? Yes, album of the year to me is Happier Than Ever by Billie Eilish. Really, really big fan of that album. Really, really love it. My runner-up is Montero by Lil Nas X. Great album. Fun album. Like the album for the bangers it has. But Billie Eilish is Happier Than Ever. I really, really like it. It's a great detour from her second album. And that's also how I feel about Montero. Like, it's a different, take from these artists. They came back and gave us different things. Now, you all want to get into my worst before I get to some other details. My worst entertainer of the year. I wrestle with this, y'all, because there are some people who should be here and guaranteed. Oh, there's some honorable mentions. Look, the baby, right? Definitely an honorable mention. Kanye is definitely an honorable mention. A couple other people. But you know what? They're always, one act. But my worst entertainer of the year, for me, hands down, has to be Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj has been fucking up this entire year. And what makes her a big fuck up is that 99% of her controversy is behind shit that she should just stay out of altogether. Like, I don't know, why did you choose to marry this horrible ass husband, right? Okay, Jennifer Hill came out. Why are you the one fighting that battle? Why can't you fall away from that, stay out of that shit, mind your business, and go somewhere? Why are you the one centering yourself in this way? That's it. No new music, no album, yet she continues to give us these little annoying ass singles and features that aren't as juicy as they used to be back in the day. Like, I remember the Rake It Up days when Nicki was giving us Rake It Up features and we was okay with Queen not being as great as it could have been on sales. But this Nicki is just completely making decisions that are just like, what the hell? Beat Me Up Scotty, she re-released it finally. It was cute, but like nothing that was major. And I just feel like right now, all these delays and all this stuff, it's like, come on. And it's just one thing after another. The anti-vax Nicki narrative, what the fuck was that? Like, how horrible that was. Like, that whole saga. Like, just not good for her fans. Her fans are annoying as hell. Like, everything that comes with Nicki right now is not the Midas touch. It's the shit touch. Everything she touched turns to shit. It's just not good right now for her. And a lot of this can be prevented if she just... Now she's in legal trouble now. Intimidate victims, Nicki. What are you doing, sis? No. Very disappointing. So, definitely my worst entertainer of the year. Runner up for worst entertainer of the year. there's been so many people that's fucked up. I would give it to Chris Nosh from Sex and the City, but that don't seem to hit as much across the board. I I thought I've had to take some time to think about this, in depth. Um, who, um, that was not obvious. Um, that were not, people who did whatever. Um, and it's hard because you have to think about multiple folks that could have filled this role. And I, I'm gonna say, and this might, I gotta make it make sense to y'all, but I gotta say, when I think about all of it together, I'm gonna say the Kardashian Jenner tribe. Okay, the reason why I say that is because I think this year, all the other years, completely makes sense. But the Kardashian Jenner tribe, both the Jenners and the Kardashians, don't separate. You got to put them together. Just and not all of them. Like Courtney aside, let's just take Courtney out the equation. Kendall, I guess we can take Kendall out too. But the rest of them, I'm just gonna say that the reason why is that it's become glaringly obvious that after this show was over, the show is over. Like there's no more Kardashians to show. That they have consistently kept pushing and antagonizing to a certain extent Black culture, continuing to antagonize us, antagonize the culture, the aesthetics, there's still vultures, culture vultures, even after the fact. And all of this recent drama with Pete and, all of that shit with Kim leaving Kanye and trying to be a lawyer and play into this, it's just become a bigger show and circus. And at this point, we're just over it. And the fact that they continue to make money, and I don't know what the hell going on with Chloe, but they're continuing to, and then the fact that they're in the mix. But there's one family member, one person in the group that I think takes the cake for me, and that's Travis Scott. He's really the runner-up, actually. It's Travis Scott. He's runner-up. Asteroid was a disaster that led to the death of people. Now, some people say, well, why not Nicki? Because I say Nicki because Nicki was an epic disappointment this year. But I would definitely say that because let me be clear, Nicki's spiral and what it symbolizes is going to have a lasting impact on us culturally than what Travis did. Travis is a major moment, a deadly festival. But the verdict is still out on how much he knew and what he did. But he definitely is a part of that entire clan. And so I put them all together because it seems like everything they touch in their circle and everything that they are representing, the whole tribe, Kylie, Kendall, well, not as much Kendall, but Kylie and Chris, right? And Caitlyn Jenner. Remember that governor's race this year? That Kardashian, Kendall, the dynasty is still prevalent in our entertainment ecosystem. And it's no way that in 2021 that a lot of what we saw and talked about was linked to the Kardashians and Jenners in some kind of way. From Travis Scott's Astral controversy to Kanye's complete meltdowns to the gubernatorial race that we was all talking about in California. The Kardashian Jenner tribe had their hands all in it still. They still are pushing and moving the bullshit in spite of the fact that their big money making show no longer exists. So it's the grift for me. It's the massive grift. It's the culture vulture for me on a higher scale. So that is something. And that's why I made them the runner up. It's not just them. It's who their hands touch, who's in their beds as well. It's all connected, y'all. I had to think long and hard about it because I really did want the baby on it. But he's honorable mention. I mean, honestly, the baby's wasn't that important even before the situation. Like, in order to get on that level, you have to be someone of stature, of high importance, not just some internet troll or some, rapper who's here today will be forgotten in the next year or so. So, Those are my thoughts on people and albums. So albums, my worst album of the year. This wasn't a hard one. There wasn't that many albums that I cared about enough. But there were some that came, right? Some that were disappointing. There were some albums I was like, I really was rooting for that album to be better. Like, Solar Power by Lorde. I listen, y'all. I love Lorde. I love melodrama. See, I want that on vinyl. That's a good album. But Solar Power just did not have the power I needed. Especially after a great album like Melodrama, which was nominated for Album of the Year. This album just did not do it for me. So, my worst album of the year is Certified Lover Boy by Drake. The reason why I don't like it, and I think it's a bad year, it sold a little bit. It broke a couple of records. It's the worst album of the year for me because of the fact that I felt that, so many thoughts. I think for all the anticipation, like Drake has every single artist's number in his phone for a collaboration. Every type of producer, industry, he is the top tier industry puppet. He might try to act like he don't, but this is a man who can rescind Grammy nominations and no one's going to cancel him because he sells so much. He has so much money behind him. He is one of the hottest rappers on the planet right now. He is a big fucking deal.com. And yet that album was a shit show. It was poorly produced. The cohesion was all over the place. There was no real rhyme or reason or theme. And I really feel like in spite of all of the massive commercial hype around it, it didn't resonate with fans or touch them the same way as his two previous albums did. Views and, nothing but the same Scorpion, Scorpion, I knew the decline was happening with Scorpion, but other people was there. I said, it's like a pandemic, right? It has a peak. And I feel like with the Drake variant, I found the Drake variant peak. It hit its peak at Scorpion. And now it's going down. Cases of Drake fandom are going down. The variant has hit its peak. The peak was Scorpion. The variant is going down with Certified Lover Boy. We finally found the peak for him. Some artists, it's hard to find where the peak is and where it goes down. Like with Taylor Swift. She ain't found her peak yet. I thought I knew where her peak was. I thought Lover, the way she performed Lover, I thought Lover was going to be that peak. I was okay, now Taylor is going to start calming down. She doesn't give a fuck about the Grammys. She's just going to be an artist. She's achieved a lot at the end of the decade. She's done. 2019, she dropped, or 2018, Lover came out. She gave us that album. Yeah, it was 2019. Yeah. Lover had came out. I was like, okay, this is cute. Taylor's going to, chill a little bit. Or she's going to do a Lover tour. And then, it's going to calm down at that point. Because she had two back-to-back albums that didn't win Grammys. Reputation didn't win any, Lover didn't win any. And that was coming off of the heels of the success of 1989. So 1989, she won Album of the Year. It was great. And I guess people would argue that was her peak, but then Reputation sold over 1 million and Lover did pretty well too. So people thought, okay, that's going, Taylor Swift is going to be the artist of the decade of the 2010s, and that's going to be it. And she was the artist of the 2010s of that decade. Taylor Swift was the artist of that decade, in my opinion. Adele was up there, Beyonce too. But I really think, Taylor Swift arguably was the most consistent artist of that decade. Looking at what happened, Folklore happens. And Evermore happens. And it's like, whoa. Now she's got 2 Album of the Year nominated albums. Super successful album. Sales are ridiculously. She's doing remake albums. And it's just a big boom. So, I don't know where her peak is. Maybe this is it. Who knows? Drake, we see his peak. Certified Lover Boy just isn't hitting. It's just not. And it's about as many metrics. It's going to be hard. I think, again, Drake could drop an album again this week. It'll be number 1. But I think what we have seen is the limitations of streams. Also, a great debate and conversation about albums with multiple tracks. I think what we saw with other artists who've come out recently, they're trying to defy, that situation with long albums, short rap albums, that have shorter lengths and stuff. And there's rappers that are doing that are doing it well. And I think that's something that is being talked about, amongst people. It's like, people are trying to get there. I think, Tyler the Creator had a great album this year. A lot of people, like some of the albums, people thought, Nas had a better rap albums. And we're not going to talk about Kanye, clearly. Young Thug or Kanye West. But no, I think that essentially Drake's album was just the biggest disappointment ever. And to see people debate about it, yeah. And also Meek Mill's album was horrible too. But I think Vince Staples' album was great. And it's a good example of, how a short album length does not define how great or how bad an album is. So my this is gonna get some people in their feelings, but in my opinion, runner up for worst album of the year. But I will tell why, and it's gonna be polarizing, and I'll get there. But I have a case to be made for it. An Evening with Silk Sonic, by Silk Sonic, Bruno Mars, and Ernest and Paak, with special guest host Bootsy Collins. So, sonically, the album is not bad. Let's be clear. The album, this is if you just listen to the product on its own, it's not bad. But when you albums are more than just the product itself. It's the politics, it's the creation, it's the backstory, it's all of those things. I think overall, to me, Silk Sonic's album is a gimmick. It's a joke. It's cheap. It's cheap in its approach of trying to mimic a sound and selling. I really feel like, and this is my conspiracy theory, it has nothing to do with Anderson .Paak. I think Anderson .Paak is a pretty decent dude. I like his music. I think he's cool. He's cute. My issue with it is that I feel like Bruno Mars is stuck. I think Bruno Mars is stuck in a time zone. He's stuck in a time zone where he isn't going to leave it because he only wants to make a certain type of sound of music, and he doesn't want to leave it because of the fact that if he do, he knows he's lost that creative approach. I also think that because of that, he knows that if he wants to get another Grammy or to remain relevant or to get the industry support or get the fan support, he has to find a way to bring an element that is not the same to the mix. So like if you're an artist that gets a reputation of being redundant, like let's say Ed Sheeran, right? Where people expect a certain thing from you, like when they did that to Taylor Swift. But Taylor Swift has had to reinvent herself. And I think female artists, they don't get the same type of issue that others do. Like Katy Perry or Gaga or them, they have to reinvent themselves or do different things in order to keep afloat. So I think that's the hard part, right? Is the staying afloat. How do you get away with this? To that extent, I feel like that's what he was doing. But the issue with men is that men are stubborn. So how do you find a way to not have to evolve as an artist, but still want to be in the favor of fans? You have to literally change up the entire presentation, not the aesthetic. So what he did was, it's not Bruno Mars, it's Silk Sonic. And you're kind of like, oh, Silk Sonic, this is cool, this is new. But they're making Bruno Mars music. That's what he did. And that's why I can't fucks with the album. Because as an artist, he has not evolved. And he's actually not trying to evolve. So he's like forcing his fans and others to believe that this concept is something different. And Bruno is not black. And I think Bruno has this infatuation with trying to take up a lot of black artistry and sounds and aesthetics and cosplay in it with looks and stylings that is not authentic to him. I mean, he's a guy who has a lot of cultural appreciation. But at the same time, cultural appreciation has its limits because where is the cultural, amplification? I mean, him doing this with Anderson is his way of saying, look, I'm bringing a black artist on board so that they could get some shine and some wins too, which is a lot more strategic than other non-black artists who have gotten the business, okay? Like Iggy Azalea or Macklemore. Like he doesn't have Anderson feature on the song. Anderson him are the song. And that is admirable, right? That's a redeeming quality. However, if Bruno Mars was out of this equation, this album would not have any buzz or support, which is kind of what he needs to do to have his own gang. So is it altruistic or is it just somebody being selfish? I think it's more of the latter, y'all. But good job for Anderson, though. Like, he found someone that was down. Because I always wondered why Anderson. But I don't think any other male artist, like Leon Bridges or someone else, would want to collaborate with Bruno. They would not want to share it. He had to find, not an underlinking, but somebody who was strong enough, that had enough street cred, right? Because it couldn't be Leon Bridges. It couldn't be any of these other guys who were out here doing it. Khalid is a little too young. And doesn't have, I don't think that would mesh. But Anderson was a perfect blend. A little young, a little different from Bruno, but was a perfect add-on. He thought of this. This is the industry. They're industry puppets. This is the industry created thing. Silk Sonic is an industry created thing. They didn't wake up one day saying, let's make music together. This is manufactured. Yeah. And all these awards and these bookings on award shows, this is industry shit. And it works because they're big celebrities, but I'm not fooled by it. I see right through it. And that is why it's the worst album of the year runner-up. So let's get on to the worst song of the year and its runner-up. Worst song of the year is TSU by Drake. Yes, the worst album of the year also had the worst song of the year. The song TSU isn't that bad by itself. The problem is with the song is that it has an R. Kelly feature in it. And not feature, but a track. And the issue is that the song is creepy because of several things. One, it has R. Kelly, sampling in it, which they tried to act like was not what it was, but music has politics and messages and meanings. It exposes something else, right? We start off getting mad at the R. Kelly sample, and that's what happened the first night. But if you actually listen to the song, it speaks to a concern around Drake's overall image and exposes a concept around Drake that people don't talk about, which is the allegations of him being a groomer for underage girls. That's an allegation. They said he was in Billie Eilish's DMs. They said that he was talking to Millie Bobby Brown when they were younger. It looks like it's grooming. It looks creepy. He said some things about Kylie Jenner. He's kind of just been in some interesting dynamics. And none of it looks good. But no one ever talks about it to him. But TSU comes around and is talking about a girl who's in college and his obsession with strippers, but his obsession with young girls in college. And Drake ain't getting no younger. Drake is getting a lot older. But he still is having that best I never had obsession with college. And it's kind of creepy. And someone was talking about how he was at a basketball game and it was a young college girls basketball game. He was out there sitting on the benches cheering them on. It's like, what are you doing, Drake? This is not cute. It's just it's weird because Drake is got this weird, I gotta choose my words wisely here. But Drake has this weird, he's gotten a pass because they think he's cute and he's light-skinned and he's very popular. But, this is a man who hasn't really grown up as an artist. His music is not evolving. He's never talking about much dope shit. I mean, he's still having a beef with a man for basically revealing to the world that he was a father. And now he's trying so hard to prove to everybody he's not ashamed of his child. You was very much ashamed of your child. You did not want people to know you had a child. And you're mad at somebody for saying you were a father. Well, you are a father. Why are you mad? And yes, the mother of the child is a former adult entertainer, which is no shame with that. I'm not judging Okay, like I think people have to do sex work, they have to do sex work. But at the end of the day, you have all these hangups, but these are decisions you made. And why should a child be at fault of it? Why should people feel like they're being judged? Why I don't know. I just think that was just interesting that he's all of those things. But I think the song Tears You just highlights a very interesting aspect of Drake that we couldn't ignore. And I also think it's part of the reason why the song flopped. Now, there's other bad songs on the album. Like, people don't think the Too Sexy song with Future was a good song. And I think it's kind of corny. Yes, all those are corny. But I think TSU was just a bad song. And what it represents, it's bad and it's bad. Okay, see what I did there? Runner up. Okay, runner up. There's so many songs that were just not good this year. This year music was like the best and then the worst. And I just wrestled this year with what I thought was a good song and a bad song. And, you know, it was a lot. You know, you know, good songs like Driver's License and All Too Well. These are good songs. Leave the Door Open, didn't care for it. Kiss Me More, didn't care for it. Happier Than Ever was everything. Okay, as you all know. And deserves to win the Grammys. But mm, I the worst song runner up, it's gotta be Jail. It's gotta be Jail. Jail Part 2 by Kanye West featuring the baby, Marilyn Manson. The song, y'all, somebody's going to jail tonight. First of all, I don't support prisons and jails, and I would like to be I'm a growing, listening, and learning abolitionist. But I will say, I'm sorry, but they should all be locked up for this song. Jail Part 2, that's on Kanye's album Donda, which is nominated for Album of the Year. Whatever. Jail, first of all, Marilyn Manson is currently swimming in sexual assault allegations, harassment, abuse allegations right now. The baby is a bigoted and a homophobe. We all know that. And Kanye West is Kanye fucking West. All three, the perfect trash trio, decided to do a song together, and Kanye purposely put them on the song together to make a statement that we're here and we're not going anywhere and we're going to fuck up the whole world. So, cancel culture darlings got together to give us a song. There you go. Worst song of the year, you know, runner up. So, before I wrap up, a couple other great things in music, other honorable mentions. My favorite film of the year, I loved King Richard. I think King Richard is my film of the year. I really, really like King Richard. I thought King Richard was a great film. It's complicated, it's complex. Is it perfect? No, but it's a great film overall because of what it represents, the spirit of it. And I really have not been able to shake it off, especially the final scene. King Richard is just a great film. I just love it. And I think Will Smith is at his acting best. In television, though, Red Table Talk, I could do without. I could do without Jada and all her shenanigans, though. I'll say that much. Worst film of the year for me. There's been some bad films this year, disappointing films, but it's going to have to be House of Gucci. How do you have all of these A-list stars and nobody can have a great Italian accent? And without the exception of Jeremy Irons, everybody else is just doing the upteenth most in a way that doesn't make any sense. It was just the worst movie of the year for me. Because worst movies, y'all, are not movies that we knew were going to be bad before we watched them. Worst movies are movies that you really thought was going to be great and then disappoint and utterly fail and do so much worse than what you anticipated to do. That's a bad film. Okay? So to me, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, House of Gucci, worst film of the year. What are other things? TV shows. Well, my TV show of the year is It's Succession. I mean, I know that sounds corny for me to say, but Succession, yes, Succession was a great show. Worst show of the year, that show by Lee Daniels on Fox, Our Kind of People, just what a disappointment. What a use. What a waste of talent. What a waste of money. What a waste of resources. It's a bad, washed up wannabe, um, fucking Empire, and the Empire era of TV. I'm done. You know what's crazy? Everyone is now trying to do remakes of Empire. Like I'm seeing a lot of people trying to do an Empire like show. It's just not going to happen. It was a once in a generational moment. I mean, it comes shows like that come in a generation. Like Dynasty was for my grandma, or for maybe my mom. I think a little bit, maybe more for my maybe, but like there's like one of those shows in a generation. Empire was that for me, for my generation. There might be another one down the road, but not now. So all these spin-offs and remakes, it's just like, no, 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 you don't get it. We don't want that, I think of shows like Scandal too. Like those are like moments and people just want to keep recreating. No, come up with a completely different show. That's why I love Queen Sugar, which is my runner-up for favorite show of this year. The seasons of Queen Sugar, which is now in its final season next year. But this was a phenomenal year for Queen Sugar. For those who still watch, it was a great show. Really, really liked it. Other honorable mentions of shows I liked. Maid was incredible. Power, Book 2, Ghost. It's let me be clear. It's not elevated TV, but it's great suspenseful binge watching. I'll tell you that. I've been watching season 2 of this. And it, first of all, best theme music ever, theme song ever, best theme music in Succession. That background music, no lyrics are required, no vocals, just the instrumental to Succession is fire. But this Power Book 2 Ghost, it's in the second season. They're on their winter break. The first 5 episodes are out, and you can watch the whole entire season, binge watch it, catch up. But Mary J. Blige is in it, and listen. I tease Mary J. Blige's acting, but I have to remind you all, Mary J. Blige is a 2-time Academy Award nominated entertainer. She was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for her role in Mudbound, and she was also nominated for Best Original Song for her song in Mudbound, that movie that was on Netflix. Now let's be clear, her acting in Mudbound was a lot different than what she's doing in Power, but I have to remind you that when I watch that show, I look at everybody on that set that's really good, but Mary J. Blige, someone look at them like, I've been nominated for a SAG, an Oscar, a Golden Globe, Film Critics Awards. What you can't? I'm an Oscar nominated actress. What the fuck are you talking about? Okay, so let's be clear. Be mindful that her, Taraji P. Henson, and Terrence Howard have something in common, and those are all Oscar nominations. So let me back up on talking about Mary J. Blige's acting. Her in Power is really basically her playing herself, except with beautiful, glamorous hair and makeup and fashion. I mean, she's just so much fun. I like the character. I do. People at first thought it was a cookie comparison, but she's not eccentric. Like, she has her moments, but she's very hardcore and very strong and stern. It's a very great role, and I like her. I think she's having more fun. I think the first season she was trying to get her feet wet, but she got an Oscar nomination for a role that was one of many roles she's played. She hasn't done that many films. She was in the Tyler Perry film many years ago. But this is a little bit more like a really wow, she just took this dramatic detour in a good way. So, yeah, that's one of my favorite honorable mentions for TV. Of course, miniseries-wise, I thought Impeachment was great for FX. I also enjoyed Made, which got a bunch of Golden Globe nominations recently. And I'm happy that people are talking about Made and watching it. Someone told me about it. I watched it. I liked it. And I didn't know if people were going to follow with this show, but they did. Shows that disappointed. Even though it's getting a lot of critical acclaim, The Underground Railroad on Amazon, it's not that it's bad per se, but I'm just at a point, and I think this is going to stick with me, that I am not watching any more slavery porn, trauma porn-esque types of films and shows. I just can't do it, y'all. I just cannot give, any more of myself to any more slavery. I think the last slavery movie, show, program I watched was 12 Years a Slave. And that's it. I just can't. I'm not watching Underground. I didn't watch Underground. I just won't watch any more slavery stuff. I mean, I think there were like glimpses of it in Warcraft or whatever it was. Wow, it's been that long. But it's been a lot. It's been a lot. Just seeing everything that's happened. Lovecraft Country. I've seen a lot. It's been a lot, and I just can't wait anymore. I just don't have an interest anymore. There's just nothing more I want to see about slavery, unless books, because I love me some books. Books that I like reading. I enjoy reading The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. My book of the year. Highly recommend it. It's a novel. It's a great book. It's a phenomenal book. It's gotten on a lot of favorite lists, but I just think it's an incredible book that everyone should read. As far as novels go, nonfiction books, there was a lot of great nonfiction books this year. I know there's a great one that's coming out in 2023 that all of you all be reading and writing and talking about. But my favorite nonfiction book that I read this year was How the Word is Passed, which is about the history of slavery across America. It's a reckoning with history of slavery across America. And I know I just said I'm tired of slavery, and I am a little bit tired of slavery. But what I will say is that this is talking about the history, how the history of it is being taught. And I thought it was a very timely book, given how much critique we have had about, critical race theory this year, and the way schools are talking about it and how they're giving history. So the book is less about the history of slavery, but more about the history of how the way it's being taught and it's being educated to people. And that to me is important. And Clint Smith is a good writer. No doubt about it. And he's 33. And his book is really good. He did another book called Counting Descent, which came out in 2017. And this book has just been a hit, this new book. And the book that I thought was really great was that he talks about really much why this country is, there's war over how this is being told and how it's being shared. So that's my favorite nonfiction book of the year. And my favorite fictional book of the year is Robert Jones Jr.'s The Prophets. And he's a Black queer author. He's also a big fan of me, and I'm a big fan of him. And his book is actually really good too. So those are my two books. I think that's all of my things I like. And of course, highlights of this year for me, my favorite top highlights, getting married, getting my master's degree, getting a book deal, which is epic. Writing my book, I must say, has been a process, and I'm now in the editing phases and revisions and that part of it all. Like, it's done. The book is done. And is it done? And we're getting there. It's like, now tweaking edits and things from my editor and everyone on board. And so that's the fun stuff. But it's almost getting there, and it's exciting to see that and all of that jazz and just all the work and things. So yeah, those are some of my personal highlights this year. So many. Being a professor, that's one. Turning 30. This podcast. There's a bunch of probably I'm not thinking of right now that I'm gonna be like, oh my goodness, I left this one out. But there's just been so many great things I've done this year. I've been happy for this season and everything. That's great. So I'm going to be taking a break, of course, a winter break. And then season 2 will be coming out around January 7th, roughly after the anniversary of the insurrection, which is where we first met, around that time. And now we'll be coming back then. So it'll be around January 7th. Season 2 premiere. with some color and some surprises. But until then, as always, take care and be best. Earnestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Earnestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.